Colored lights. 50. We may now go on to deal with another branch of this part of our subject, namely that which concerns the manufacture of colored lights for illuminating wheels or set pieces, or any larger kind of firework. This species of color is perhaps more useful in exhibition work than any single firework that can be named, for there are few set pieces, or wheels, or designs of any pretensions to which these colored lights cannot be adapted, and adapted too with a very enhancing effect. Their preparation is exceedingly simple. They are generally made in two sizes only. These are the 2-ounce and the 1-ounce sizes. The cases are made of cartridge or foolscap paper and are about 2 inches long for the 2-ounce size and 1 inch and 3/4 for the 1-ounce size. Used-up copybooks furnish excellent paper for making these colored light cases. 3 or 4 rounds of the paper will give you ample thickness for the case. The paper should be pasted all the way along the strips. When the cases are thoroughly dry, ram into the bottom of them some dry powdered clay. This will make a close end, and will also furnish an incombustible part by which the case may be tied or fastened to its place. The clay is often rammed so as to fill the case nearly halfway up, but of course the space left for the composition will depend upon the length of time that you wish the color to burn. There is some exactness and nicety, besides a certain amount of actual experience, required for the proper adjustment of these colors to the cases in combination with which they are to burn. The colored light should be under control, so that it makes its appearance and introduces its intended effect at the right time, and lasts only as long as it is required to last. I will now give a few formulae for these larger colored lights. These, if made up with ordinary care and their ingredients thoroughly mixed, will produce magnificent colors, both as regards depth of tint and brilliancy of reflective power. The compositions given above for lances are for the most part of too rapid combustion to answer well in these larger and more open cases, but the following will be found to succeed admirably if the chemicals used be only pure and dry, and properly incorporated. White lights for decoration. Number 19. Nitre, 4 parts. Sulfur, 1 part. Sulfide of antimony, 1 part. Or Number 20. Nitre, 4 parts. Sulfur, 1 part. Meal powder, 1 part. These will give the ordinary bluish-white light, and compositions made from them will remain good for any length of time. The yellow lights may be made from the formulae given under the head of lances. The following will produce the green. Number 21. Nitrate of baryta, 80 parts. Chlorate of potash, 32 parts. Sulfur, 24 parts. Calomel, 16 parts. Charcoal fine, 3 parts. Shellac, 2 parts. The drawback to all green colors burnt in cases is that the combustion of the case itself impairs to some extent the purity of the tint of the flame. Cases, therefore, which are to contain green fire must not be made unnecessarily thick. Composition number 21 gives by far the best color that I have yet seen for this purpose, and when contrasted with a good red, is all that one need desire. The 2 next compositions will furnish exceedingly beautiful red colors. It is best to make them up only a short time before using them, as their effect is much more brilliant when quite freshly mixed. And besides, the nitrate of strontia becomes damp after a time, particularly in the autumn and winter months, in which case it will produce only the effect of disappointing you. The compositions are both perfectly safe, since they contain no sulfur, and are on that account entirely free from all liability to spontaneous combustion. Red lights, number 22. Chlorate of potash, 32 parts. Nitrate of strontia, 48 parts. Calomel, 20 parts. Shellac, 12 parts. Chartier's copper, 4 parts. Charcoal fine, 1 part. Or, number 23. Chlorate of potash, 84 parts. Nitrate of strontia, 80 parts. Calomel, 51 parts. Dextrine, 22 parts. Shellac, 18 parts. Chartier's copper, 4 parts. Of these two formulae, number 22 is the one that I generally employ. It produces a very brilliant color, which is almost scarlet, and forms, in my opinion, the best contrast both to the green and purple lights. Number 23 gives a deep, rich crimson, which may also be found very effective occasionally. Dextrine, which enters into its composition, is always to be had in very fine powder, and therefore it will give you no trouble to bring it into the proper condition for use. It is very cheap, being sold generally at from 1 shilling to 1 shilling 6 per pound. You will require only a very small quantity of it. We now come to the last of our colors for making these decorating lights, and that is the purple. Purple, number 24. Chlorate of potash, 28 parts. Chartier's copper, 28 parts. Calomel, 13 parts. Shellac, 8 parts. Stearine, 1 part. Or, number 25. Chlorate of potash, 40 parts. Calomel, 28 parts. Chartier's copper, 28 parts. Dextrine, 10 parts. Stearine, 3 parts. Number 26. Chlorate of potash, 26 parts. Chartier's copper, 24 parts. Calomel, 14 parts. Shellac, 7 parts. All of these three formulae produce good colors. I think that I am rather inclined to give the preference to number 25, on account of the very effective contrast that it makes when employed to burn with the red at number 22. These three colors are perfectly safe, for the same reason that I stated above when speaking of the red lights. I trust that the formulae which I have now given will be found to supply all that you will require in this department of pyrotechny. The compositions have all been used by me, and I can therefore speak from actual experience of their respective merits. And so you will be pleased to remember that if they do not succeed in your hands, the fault will lie either in the condition, perhaps the impurity, of your chemicals, or in your own manipulation. I can answer for these receipts. All that is necessary on your part is a scrupulous attention to my directions. And here let me put in a word of caution. Where you see red lights, green lights, purple lights written over the formulae above, you are to remember distinctly that I use the word lights to distinguish this branch of pyrotechny, and these compositions, from those which I mean to treat of under the title of colored fires. By colored lights I mean small cases of the 1 or 2 ounce size, filled with either of the above compositions from number 19 to number 26 inclusive. These compositions are not adapted for the purpose of producing colored fires, such as are employed to light up gardens, avenues, buildings, etc. They are to be confined to their own use, which is the decoration of wheels, or of any large and complicated exhibition fireworks. For this purpose they will answer well, and for the other they will not answer at all. And having now explained the distinction between colored lights and fires, I must ask my readers not to lay the blame upon me if, when employing my compositions for purposes for which they were never intended, they find they do not succeed. But we have still to speak of the way in which these colored lights are to be fastened to the pieces which they are designed to decorate. The most common way of doing this is to drive a nail into the wooden framework of the piece at the place where you wish to place the colored light, and to tie the case which contains it to this nail. Two nails, like two heads, are better than one, and the case may be secured as shown in the annexed sketch. Figure 74. A represents the colored light case, B the string which is passed round its lower clayed end, by means of which it is secured by the two nails, C, which are driven into the wooden framework. This mode of fastening is very simple and effective for attaching the colored fire cases to the framework of a fixed piece. But in the case of a wheel, or any piece which has motion, it is, in my opinion, very desirable to give them a position like that of the wheel cases, i.e., to let them revolve with their mouths in the opposite direction to that of the motion of the wheel. This is easily done, either by fastening them between the spokes of a large wheel, or, in the case of a small one, by driving in a longer nail than is necessary, and bending down the head of it in the desired direction, and fastening the colored light case to this bent part. Figure 75. By this means you will have no difficulty in attaching these little decorations in any place, to any part of the framework of your piece, or in any direction. The object of turning the mouth away from the direction in which the piece moves is that the resistance offered by the air during its revolution may not interfere with the easy combustion of the colored light. But we have yet to say a few words about the filling these 1 or 2 ounce cases, and their priming. The compositions used for this purpose do not require, it must be remembered, to be rammed into the cases. They only need be pressed in so firmly that their motion during combustion shall not shake them out. Of course, they should be uniformly pressed in, and this is simply done by pressing in only a small quantity at a time. With regard to their priming, this may be done in either of the following ways: by smearing into their mouths some wetted meal powder, or, what is better, by pressing into their mouths a piece of quick match, and then pressing a little of the colored composition over that, and allowing the end of the match to project about half an inch. But in whatever way they are primed, they must have 2 rounds of some thin paper pasted round their mouths, and projecting an inch or so beyond them, into which the leaders can be tied, which are to connect them with the other cases of the piece. In the case of small wheels, in which only one of these colored light cases is to be employed, it will be advisable to fill it with compositions of different colors. Press in first enough red light composition to fill 1/3 of the case, then enough purple to occupy another third, and fill the remainder of the case with green composition. By this means you will be able to vary your effects to any extent. I now wish to give you directions for making a very beautiful and effective firework, in which these colored lights play a prominent part. I must refer you to the page of illustrations which accompanies this paper, in order that you may have no difficulty in understanding the directions which I am now about to offer. In its general working, the piece is very similar to that which I have described under the name of brilliant wheel, at paragraph 43. But it is at the same time a great improvement upon the one there spoken of. Cut a piece of deal or beech board into the shape drawn at AA, figure 76. This should be at least half an inch in thickness, and not less than 3 feet in length. When you have shaped it as you intend to leave it, find its center, the point at which it balances. Through this point, bore a hole of such a size as will easily admit the iron spindle which screws into your firework post, figure 70. At each end of this wooden frame, place 3 wheel cases, taking care that the position of the mouths of these cases is so arranged that their driving power shall all be in one direction. A quick-match leader is to be carried from the tail of the extreme case at each end to the mouth of the next, and then from the tail of these to the mouths of the third at each end. 2 more pieces of wood, represented at BB, figure 76, will now be required, each about 12 inches long, 5/8 of an inch wide, and 3/8 of an inch thick. They must have a hole bored through them, into which a spindle or smooth round nail can pass easily. But this hole must not be in their center. It should be bored about 4 inches from one end, which will leave 8 inches on the other side of the hole. Through these holes drive a smooth round nail into the long framework of the piece, exactly halfway between its center and the innermost wheel cases. The object of hanging these 2 pieces not by their center of balance is that one end being longer, and therefore heavier, than the other, may cause the pieces to fall round by their own weight, as the firework makes its revolutions. To these 2 pieces colored lights are attached at each end in such a position that they shall project horizontally at right angles with the pieces BB. This will be seen clearly by reference to the drawing at CC, figure 77, which is intended to give you a side view of the same piece. It must not be forgotten that the satisfactory performance of this firework depends mainly upon the exactness and true adjustment of the woodwork. Unless the revolving pieces are neatly hung, and the balance of the main framework is true, you must not expect success. The colored lights may be arranged as follows: a green and a red light on one of the revolving pieces, and a purple and red on the other. These colored lights are all to be connected together and with the mouths of the 2 extreme wheel cases by quick match. It will be obvious then that the colored lights must be so prepared as to last during the combustion of the 3 driving cases. The drawing at figure 78 represents a rather better position for the wheel cases than that given at figure 76. The diagram figure 79 represents a wheel frame to which are attached at FFF colored lights. The position there indicated is a very good one for colored lights when required for wheels of any such make as that in the drawing. You must not forget that they are all to be placed at different distances from the center of the wheel. They may, of course, be made to play their part at any period of the wheel's revolution. The colored lights, for whose manufacture I have given directions above, are very valuable auxiliaries in nearly all exhibition pieces, and that we shall have occasion to call them in frequently to our aid as our practical pyrotechny becomes more advanced, and our enthusiasm in the art leads us to search for new combinations and effects.